Howdy, y'all. My name is Adrian Jacob, and today I'll be presenting the increase in temperature causing an increase in honey yield in Apis mellifera. I hope you enjoy my presentation, and let's get into the video. In order for the importance of this research to be established, we must first look at why Apis mellifera is a model organism. But first, what even is a model organism? Well, a model organism is an organism that's good for studying because of its unique characteristics. Apis mellifera is considered a strong model organism because of its unique behavioral and genetic traits that make them ideal for studying the environmental effects on social insects. They also can function as a superorganism, or really part of one. This means that the colony behaves as a single biological unit. Individuals, workers, don't act alone. They work collectively to maintain colony health, regulate temperature, and produce honey. Because of this superorganism structure, studying Apis mellifera allows researchers to understand how environmental stressors affect not just individuals, but an entire coordinated biological system. As mentioned in the previous slide, Apis mellifera produces honey. They are a honeybee after all. They do this by converting nectar and evaporating water out of it. Temperature is crucial in this process. Inside the hive, bees maintain a very controlled temperature, usually around 34 to 36 degrees Celsius, because this is the optimal range for brood development, enzymatic activity, and the evaporation needed to ripen nectar into honey. If the hive is too cool, evaporation slows and honey won't form properly. If it's too hot, bees spend more time cooling the hive and less time foraging. So heat plays a direct role in determining how efficiently bees can produce honey. And thus we arrive at the central question. How does heat, and specifically an increase in heat, affect honey production in Apis mellifera? First, we'll look at how an increase in heat over time has affected the total honey yield. According to this article linked here, rising temperatures have been associated with increases in honey yield over time. We've had warmer springs recently, and this causes two major changes. The harvest season starts earlier and ends later, which extends the foraging window. This longer season allows for more total harvest per year, raising overall honey output. Several long-term studies examined climate warming and honey production and found that even a slight temperature increase across spring and early summer correlated with higher yields because bees have more active days and flowers bloom for longer periods. This is demonstrated in figure 1 off to the right here. As you can see over time, the last harvest date has moved up and the earliest has moved back. Meanwhile, annual hive yield has increased over time. Though an increase in honey yield initially sounds good, the effects of that are actually more damaging than one could expect. This same study found that higher temperatures contribute to mistimed swarming. Here's the issue. Climate warming has pushed the season earlier. However, bee breeding cycles have not shifted enough to match this earlier season. This means colonies sometimes enter warm conditions before enough workers are even available. When this happens, bees begin to swarm earlier than normal. Swarming removes a large portion of the worker population, the bees responsible for nectar gathering. So even though total yield may increase, he creates inefficiencies because colonies lose workers during what should be peak honey production. These two studies here demonstrate the importance of temperature on foraging and how foraging behavior connects to overall honey production. See, foraging only occurs within specific temperature ranges. Bees forage best in moderate warmth, but extreme heat decreases that activity substantially. These two studies highlight that foraging drops significantly when temperatures rise past the high 30s in Celsius. When temperatures become too high, bees shift from foraging to cooling behavior, such as fanning or collecting water. Less foraging means less nectar collected, which directly results in less honey produced. So, while heat extends the season, as seen in that first slide with this figure, too much heat during the day can reduce nectar intake and lower hive productivity, decreasing the overall honey yield and thus leading to a decrease in the bee colony's health. In conclusion, although rising temperatures have generally increased honey production by lengthening the harvest season, as demonstrated in the previous two slides, this leads to a decrease in bee health as well. Heat causes early swarming, it reduces foraging efficiency, and it forces bees to spend more time regulating the hive temperature instead of making honey. Heat is not simply good or bad. Its effects depend on how well bees can adapt to their behavior and new environmental conditions. We must continue to study the link between rising temperatures and the effect it has on honeybee populations because of how important the Apis mellifera and other honeybees are to the environment. Understanding how these species respond to heat is important for both ecological and agricultural reasons. It can help beekeepers optimize hive placement and management. And more importantly, it helps us understand how climate change affects pollinators and what steps are necessary to protect them. Included here are my references. The ones in blue are the peer-reviewed papers, and the one there at the bottom is the reference for the how honey is made figure back on one of the early slides. I appreciate you listening to my presentation. Thank you very much. That is the official end of the presentation. Now, as an extra note, I must apologize. I sound horrible, very sick. Uh, Sorry you had to listen to my horrible sick voice, but thank you anyway. That's all I got. I appreciate you.